Confession. The individual surrenders to leaders through confession, which reduces privacy and boundaries. Successful purification can grant temporary relief from guilt, which increases trust and dedication. Members are motivated to obey to avoid confession. Confessed sins may be weaponized against members who doubt or stray.
Yeah, I think this within trans activism, I think it's very similar to just social justice activism in general, where if you say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, you're expected to publicly apologize, that form of confession, and talk about how you're going to do better in the future, that kind of thing.
Do any of those apologies or those public confessions, we've seen them used against outsiders. So some government official or some celebrity will make some clumsily worded statement that trips over some tenet of the ideology. They'll get called out as a transphobe or a bigot, and then they'll have to walk back their statement, apologize, and then commit to educate themselves so that they can be better in the future.
Her comments on transgender people have her on the hot seat tonight.
KCCI's Chris Gottner tells us why some are now asking a state Democratic Party leader to step down.
The controversy stems from a Facebook post by Democratic State Central Committee member Tisha Dumkrager. It linked to an article about tampon and pad maker Always removing the female Venus symbol from its packaging to be inclusive of transgender customers. Dumkrager remarked in part, "How much more must natural-born males take from women? And trans women have no right taking that away from us naturally born women." She's now facing calls to resign, including from the group Progressive Voices of Iowa. LGBTQ group One Iowa stopped short of that Wednesday, saying that's up to the party, but it did call her comments transphobic. Dumkrager apologized Wednesday, posting in part, "It was not my intention to hurt others." She says she hopes this becomes a teachable moment.
Does that actually absolve them, or how does that play out in the community? Is there real forgiveness in those situations?
See, that's a good question because it's like there isn't. It's like as soon as you have crossed a boundary, they'll never forget it. So even before J.K. Rowling was really clear about her opinions, before that happened, there were like a couple of instances where people had seen that she liked tweets that people believed were transphobic. This before she even did anything. They were just like monitoring her behavior essentially, and they saw that she liked tweets from someone. And there was a PR cover up where someone who worked for her was saying, oh, it was just a senior moment where she accidentally clicked. So from that point forward, no one really trusted her to not be transphobic. There was just always this sort of feeling underneath it of that she's secretly transphobic and not telling anyone until she actually came out and said what she wanted to say. So do people get forgiven? I'm not sure. I think sometimes they do if it's been like a really long period of time, people like forget it. But then if they do something else, then it gets brought up again as they bring it back up as you did this before. I think that was in the description is anything
weaponizing confessions.
Yeah.
And you've talked about before how the blame reversal, once you detransition, then accusations of not really ever having been committed enough, it sounds like any prior confessions or apologies are fair game then to be thrown in your face as proof of why you are the problem and it's not the group or the ideology that's the problem.
Yeah.
All right. So how are we going to rate this?
I think moderate.
All right. You've alluded to this a few times. Spying and reporting. Members are encouraged to monitor each other and report any deviation from group teaching. Privacy is considered selfish or wrong. Members are discouraged from being alone, and pairing up of members is used to ensure accountability. Now, some of those are more relevant to in-person groups. If we're talking about a movement which is primarily social media driven, then that monitoring may take the form of identifying when thought crime is expressed in a tweet or in a Facebook post or something like that. How did you encounter this? Or did you?
It was more like, as I mentioned before, people were like monitoring J.K. Rowling's tweets and like monitoring her likes specifically, which is you have to go outside of just her regular Twitter page and go to her likes to actually do that. So going out of their way to do it. But also one of the big ones, I think, and in social justice as like a whole, is people monitoring who you follow. So if you are following the wrong people, and then you might get called out. And that happened actually a lot, again with JK Rowling. But so like I knew a lot of people who were saying like, oh, if you're still following her, then you're a bad person or whatever. And as going as far as to tag them in tweets and be like, you people, you're all still following her, because you can see who's following who. And so that kind of stuff was happening as well.
So it's not like you're reporting to some one leader or authority. You're reporting publicly to the entire community of other activists who then can inflict consequences on you. And again, that report then triggers that cycle of shame that the group can inflict on the individual.
Yeah.
How did that affect the way that you navigated the online world? I know when I started learning about detransitioners and their stories, I wanted to follow more and more of them. But I'm aware, even like in the ex-Mormon space, people lost the moral framework of the church, and most ex-Mormons have adopted the moral framework of social justice. And so understanding that, I know that it potentially alienates some of the people that I would want to participate in a discussion like this if I were to follow people who have been identified as bigots or transphobes. And so even as an outsider, it affects who I'm willing to follow. So how did you, on your detransition journey, navigate this? Did you create a separate account so that you could like and follow who you wanted to without the fear of being linked to your main account? Or how do people navigate that?
That is how I did it. So
Okay.
my Facebook and my Instagram, my Facebook is entirely people, not entirely people I've met in person. It's entirely people from before I detransitioned. So it's, some of them are disability activists, some of them are people from high school, my family. So that's all there. The Twitter account that I use for detrans advocacy, it's completely separate. I do use a pseudonym. So that is to prevent those two things from being connected, although I'm pretty sure they will be eventually. But I created the new account. It was so that I could follow anyone I wanted, and so that I wouldn't get people that I knew from before being like, oh, why are you following this person? Why are you doing this?
The Twitter handle that you use, there's something unique about the name, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, so the name is Some Nuance Please, but Please was, the whole name was too long, so it's actually Some Nuance PLS. But
Okay.
yeah, my Substack is Some Nuance Please, the whole thing. But it was named after my Substack, and the reason I picked that name was it's twofold. Part of it was me wanting to, that feeling like more nuance about gender and about transition needed to be injected into the world. And then the other part is reminding myself that I need to be nuanced, which I still have some difficulty with, but yeah.
All right. Spying and reporting, it sounds like it played a role in your detransition process, but was also a pretty strong factor while you were in. What do you want to rate it?
I think it was moderate.
Okay.
Yeah.